Here.
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 Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
He's still on the list. Marley hasn't been there in 2 years.
Here.
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 Yes. Here. Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Here. Here. Here.
Here. Here. Here. Here. Here.
Thank you, Sean, for accommodating me. So I'm going to call this meeting to order. And this is 2019-272, the resolution setting the RTM annual meeting date on the FYE 2020 town budget. Whereas Section 9.3.1 of the Groton Town Charter requires that the Town Council determine the date for the annual budget meeting of the representative town meeting, now therefore it be resolved that the annual budget meeting of the representative town meeting will be held on Tuesday, April 30th, 2019 at 7 p.m. at the Groton Senior Center, 102 Newtown Road, Groton, Connecticut. So at this time, I'm going to entertain citizens' petitions. This is the portion of the RTM agenda where the RTM welcomes comments from citizens pertaining to the FYE 2020 budget. The moderator shall limit the time allotted for each presentation, and citizens should, if possible, submit written comments. Presentations should be limited to matters pertinent to the FYE 2020 Groton Town budget. The moderator or members through the moderator shall ask questions only in order to clarify the speaker's presentation. Responses may be given by the moderator and or by the town manager. Citizens should make their presentations from the lectern and state their names and addresses for the record. At this point, I have one person on our list, which is Mr. Richard Semeraro. Would you please come to the microphone?
Good evening. I'm Richard Semeraro, 202 High Street, Mystic. In 2015, I served on the RTM and chaired the committee that recommended the amount of support for the Mystic and Noank Library. The RTM approved $187,232. In the current fiscal year, support has dropped to $100,000. That's more than a 45% reduction. Think what it would do to your household budget if you suffered such a decline in income. The Groton Library should be viewed as a single system. Anyone who lives in Groton can take out a library card in any of the three and use it in any of the three. The libraries share books and other resources. Most residents just go to the library that's closest to their home. Groton is too far spread out and has too large a population for one library to meet the needs of its residents. In addition, the two nonprofit libraries inject hundreds of thousands of dollars, non-tax dollars, into the system from endowment income and fundraising activities. When the town council held its public comment meeting, over a dozen residents spoke in support of the libraries. The next day, Councilor Zeppieri met with the director of the Mystic and Noank Library and toured the building. When the library budget was discussed by the town council, he recommended $115,000 for the Mystic and Noank Library, and it was approved unanimously. That was a big step forward. But the RTM has a special obligation to ensure that all its residents of the town of Groton are treated equitably. These cuts have fallen disproportionately on those of us who live in Mystic. Therefore, I ask you to approve $125,000, which is just a little more than the $122,921 approved in the 2017-2018 budget, and still far below the $187,232 approved in the 2015-2016 budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Leah Duran.
Good evening. I received this from Leah Duran, 98 Jupiter Point Road in Groton. Dear RTM members, I live in District 2 and urge the RTM to support the figure of $25,000 to the Bill Memorial Library in support of its services to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Granatowski, you don't have to do a citizen's petition. You are an ex officio member, but you may.
Thank you. Patrice Granatowski, 30 North Prospect Street, Groton, Connecticut. I just wanted to come out and say thank you all for your service. You have a monumental task ahead of you, and know that the town appreciates your being here, appreciates your service, and we're happy that the RTM is back and able to do this task. So do good things, and best of luck to you.
Thank you. I have received some communications about the budget, and I just wanted to mention them as well. I received an email from Elizabeth Conlon, who was requesting a vote of $115,000 for the Mystic Noank Library, and I received an email from Dr. Dimitri Petropoulos, who's on 77 Huntington Ridge Drive in Mystic, who had contacted Mr. Berry about the poor state of the basketball court on Heather Glen Lane, and was hoping it would be resurfaced. And while we all share a common thought that keeping kids off the street is a great thing, at the same time we all agree a well-maintained basketball court will attract children like a magnet. And so he's hoping that this will happen in this budget season. Thank you. I also forgot to mention that I had received communications from Jim and Irma Streeter, Rich Pasqualini, Representative Pasqualini, Representative Martin, and Representative Marshall, who will not be able to be with us tonight. So sorry about that. I should have said it earlier. Are there any other comments, citizens' comments on the budget? No? Okay. All right, seeing none, we can move on to our budget update by the town manager and the superintendent of schools.
Good evening. Just a quick update. The original budget requests, when you compile all the different requests I received, was totaled $130,933,203. And then when I traded my draft budget to the council, it was down to $129,421,737. I presented that in this room at a March 28th public hearing. Through the series of budget meetings, the council made several reductions and additions. They made reductions in the amount of $439,193, additions in the amount of $80,148. That's a net change of reductions of $359,045. So the current budget passed by the council last Tuesday is $129,062,692. That's all I have.
Dr. Grenier, did you have a?
Yes, just a very brief report. The town council acted on the board's proposed budget of 1.24%, and as you know, passed that forward. Last week on April 25th, we met with the Education Committee. The Education Committee also approved the 1.24% budget. And the CIPs, there were 3 CIPs that were approved, and the one CIP that we're still getting some information on is the refinishing of the wooden beams at both Catherine Kolnowski and Northeast Academy. And we're working on getting that information, so we'll come back on the 8th. But so we're poised and ready to meet with the RTM on the 8th. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions of the superintendent? Representative Bordelon?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Thank you, Dr. Grenier. I look forward to getting the update on those questions from the Education Committee. I also hope at some point to hear the report back on the status of the Westside, Cutler, and Catherine Kolnowski schools after the director of lunch food services went over about the free and reduced lunch program. I'd love to hear those updates as far as the status moving forward as well. Thank you.
We'll get that information to you as soon as, it should be later in May. We'll have that.
All right, seeing no other questions, we can move forward. I believe the first accounts that we're going to take are with finance. So Representative Washington, would you like to come up and read your minutes? No? Okay. But she said no for some reason. Maybe that was a joke. Sorry, went right over my head. What? Oh, that is not nice. And you can just read the portion that we're going to do tonight, which are the accounts that are listed for Tuesday, April 30th of your minutes.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sheena. I shouldn't have touched it. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi. Okay. All right. The RTM Finance Committee met on April 22nd, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. in the Groton Senior Center, Classroom B, to consider the FYE 2020 budget. Members present were Representatives Bruce McDermott, Roseanne Katowski, Beverly Washington, Wilma Lambert, Robert Martin, Clarence Casper, and Autumn Hanscom. There was nobody absent, so quorum was declared. Also present were Finance Director Cindy Landry, Assistant Town Manager, Human Resources Director Robert Zugami, Moderator Sima Eben, Representatives Kathy Chase, Ali Starkley, and Juan Melendez. So the first item is voter registration that could be found on page 62. of the budget book. Account 1003.
Can you just go through your minutes to discuss your
Okay. You want me to
discussion?
read all the minutes?
I want you to read the minutes that
Okay.
pertain to all to the counts that we're going to be
Okay.
discussing.
Motion for $176,679 was made by Representative McDermott, seconded by Representative Lambert. Discussion, the increase in the budget is due to temporary workers and office items needed for the presidential primary in 2020 and municipal election in the fall of 2019. The Secretary of State mandates what they need to accomplish every year. This budget includes costs of machinery, the cost to purchase ballots, mail out letters to workers, pay workers, supplies, and etc. One additional temporary worker to be hired is desired. The December 11, 2018 referendum and May 6, 2019 referendum will be taken from the current year's budget. Vote in favor, Representative Katowski. Vote in favor of the $176,679 was Representatives Katowski, Martin, Lambert, Haskin, Washington, Casper, and McDermott, and nobody opposed. The next account is Human Resources. Well, I'll go by my minutes. The next account is Finance Administration, account 1013. Motion for $1,608,512 was made by Representative Martin, seconded by Representative McDermott. The increase in the budget is $143,199, or 9.8%. Personnel service increased due to the need to hire a deputy finance director and a part-time financial assistant, one in the purchasing division. There's too much work in purchasing for one person, and the part-time position will do clerical work as well as be cross-trained. New personnel also requires some outside training. Director of Finance, Cindy Landry, gave an overview of her department. There was a discussion about job functions and training. The Deputy Finance Director is needed for succession planning. Finance is a key department. The staff is needed. Staff that was lost in prior years needs to be replaced. Representative Katowski made an amended motion to approve $1,319,514. It was seconded by Representative McDermott. Representative Katowski would like to eliminate the part-time position and reduce the finance director's raise to 5%. Discussion followed on whether or not the committee should reduce the salary. Question whether the RTM has a right to cut salaries. Representative Katowski suggests that the RTM looks at these high salaries or these high raises. The proposed amount is lower than the FYE 2018 and the FYE 2019 budget appropriation. So Representative Katowski withdrew her motion, and Representative McDermott withdrew his second. Representative Katowski made an amended motion to approve $1,577,155, seconded by Representative Martin. This amount would allow for a 5% raise and eliminate the part-time position in purchasing. Representative Katowski stated that raises of 10% are unacceptable. No raise in the town of Groton should exceed 5%. It's not fair to the taxpayers. Representative McDermott made an amended motion to approve $1,602,512, seconded by Representative Washington. This number keeps all positions and allows for a 5% raise. Vote to approve $1,602,512. In favor, there were 4 in favor, Representative McDermott, Katowski, Martin, and Hanskin, and 3 opposed, Representative Lambert, Casper, and Washington. Reevaluation, account 2120, account name Revaluation Fund, motion for $182,200 made by Representative Martin, seconded by Representative Hanscom. Discussion, the Revaluation Fund was started in FYE 1999 to accumulate funds on an annual basis in order to pay for expenses incurred for the state-mandated revals. Funds are contributed annually so that major fluctuations in appropriation from the general fund do not materialize 1 or 2 years prior to the actual date of the revaluation and aerial mapping. Proposed contributions to the fund have been reduced in the past 2 budgets. This year, asking for $130,000 is needed for aerial mapping by means of flyovers, and $50,000 for the revaluation. All those in the vote in favor of the $182,200 were Washington, Katowski, McDermott, Lambert, Martin, Casper, and Hanscom. Nobody opposed that. The next one, 2060, account 2060, Mumford Cove, motion for $21,102 made by Representative McDermott, seconded by Representative Lambert. Discussion, Mumford Cove residents through the Mumford Cove Association contract with the Knowing Fire Department for fire protection and taxes the residents the cost of the service. The town collects the taxes and pays the fire district. Vote in favor of the $21,102 or Representatives Katowski, McDermott, Lambert, Martin, Casper, Hanscom, and Washington. The next is the Groton Sewer District, account 4010. Motion for $794,486. Motion made by Representative Martin, seconded by Representative McDermott. Discussion, the Groton Sewer District is primarily a debt service fund which pays the principal and interest on sewer bonds and payments to the state of Connecticut for the Clean Water Fund loan. Currently, the only sewer debt owed is the Clean Water Fund loan. The interest on this is 2%, which is low. This money is used for the maintenance of the sewer treatment plant. There was a question on line item 4553, pilot state and tax exempts. This would include schools, Yukon, state-owned property, Pequot Medical Center, and churches. And line item 4717, pilot payments - other, would be Odd Fellows. They pay a voluntary payment in place of taxes. So all those in favor of the $794,486 were Representative Washington, Katowski, McDermott, Lambert, Martin, Casper, and Hanscom. And nobody opposed that. The next is account 1012, Human Resources, motion for $330,145. Motion made by Representative Lambert, seconded by Representative Martin. Discussion, it was discussed that employment ads are being expanded to encourage diversity through news sources and publication. Tuition reimbursements included in several contracts can be $5,000 for further education relative to their position. The town only authorizes $5,000 for the total of all groups. Additional costs include the use of the department's copier. The cost increased from $366 to $935 for a year of maintenance through Aztec. The lowest price for a new machine would be $1,806 annually for a 60-month lease. If the copier breaks, there are no replacement parts. A new copier would need to be purchased, so there's no financial risk
to continue using the current copier. Professional services cost $10,000 to implement new retirement studies and plans. Drug testing was extended to all pre-hires. A clinical drug test would cost $50 per test, but Human Resources conducts the test internally using a test kit costing $10.79. This method saves approximately $4,000 per year. There's a savings of $4,936 with the current EAP, that's Employee Assistance Program. Guardian Life Insurance carrier is providing the EAP at no cost. So because the Guardian Life carrier is giving us EAP, we don't have to pay the $4,936. Vote in favor. 6 were in favor: Representative Lambert, Martin, Casper, Hanskin, McDermott, and Washington. No opposed, 1 abstention, and that was Representative Katowski. The next item is 1070, insurance and claims, for the motion for $638,303 made by Representative McDermott, seconded by Representative Hanskin. This account covers premiums for third-party damages, damage to town-owned property, flood and earthquake coverage, town vehicles, police version of public officials coverage, and public officials liability. Due to coastline damage this year, there was an overall increase of 5% nationwide, but the town of Groton was able to negotiate a 2% increase. The basic property damage deductible is $10,000. An umbrella liability policy is used to ride above the limits of the primary general liability policy to provide an even broader coverage subject to a major self-insured retention of $10,000. This is only applicable to exposure not covered on the primary layer. The premiums paid for the police version of the public officials coverage have a deductible of $25,000. Also included are boiler coverage for buildings and pump station, crime policy money, and securities and fiduciary coverage. All those in favor of the $638,303 were Representative Washington, Katowski, McDermott, Lambert, Martin, Casper, and Hanscom. The next was the self-funded plans, account 1071, a motion for $9,382,495 made by Representative Martin, seconded by Representative Lambert. The discussion was, this account includes health insurance, retirement, life insurance, workers' compensation, other post-employment benefits, retiree health benefits, and heart and hypertension. There are 298 retired employees that this plan covers. Liabilities for retirement exceed assets by $23.8 million, which is up from $19.1 million in 2017. The market value return for 2018 was 7.5%. The actuarial value was 6.9%, which is below the assumed 7.25 return, therefore producing an investment gain. The difference is attributed to smoothing of losses / gains over a 5-year period. As of June 30th, 2018, the market value was $119 million, which is up from $114 million in 2017. The resulting fund ratio is 83.6%. The cost of these and COLA costs almost $1 million. The town PPO plan costs on an average of $20 $1,963 per employee versus the high deductible health plan, which costs $18,183 per employee per year, which is a $2,778 less. The average seating for the health insurance, health savings account is $1,656 per employee per year. The high deductible health plan cost savings of $2,778 minus the HSA funding of $1,656, it still saves us $1,122 per employee per year. The PPO plans are projected to increase by approximately 8%, while the HDHP will increase by about 4.5%. Medicare Part A is free. Medicare Part B premium for 2019 is $135.50. This is the cost the retiree pays to the government to have Part B. The town offers over 65 Medicare supplemental insurance, must be enrolled in Medicare A and B. This is fully insured product. The cost is $356 per person. Medicare pays the first 80% and Anthem pays the remainder. The town also offers over 65 pharmacy coverage. This is a self-insured product, meaning the town pays all the claims instead of just the premium. The town was recently able to offer a new over 65 insurance plan. Option F is a Medicare supplement. You have to have Medicare A and B with the pharmacy, with the drug coverage included. The 2019 premium is $444.50. It's a fully insured product. And then we have the heart and hypertension is for the police officers hired prior to 1996. This covers illnesses, injuries, or death due to heart disease or hypertension that is job-related and falls under workers' compensation. These costs have decreased from $189,806 to $96,543. And the vote in favor of the $9,382,495 was Representative Washington, Katowski, McDermott, Lambert, Martin, Casper, and Hanscom. Nobody opposed. And that's it. We had a motion to recess until tomorrow, Wednesday, May 1st, at 6:30.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Can we, should we, is there any questions or, are there any questions or discussion on those minutes? Sure. Representative Newsom. Sorry, it's making a little echo, so I'm scared to be too close.
So we're not going to necessarily vote on the meeting minutes, but you're going to ask if there's any discussion so that anybody who was on that committee has a chance to clarify.
That's what I just did, yes.
Right, understood. I just want to make sure that was what we were going to do consistently.
Yeah, I want to get it. It's always hard because we can either read, well, this is what has happened. We don't even know what will happen at tomorrow's meeting. So this is the extent of finance minutes at this point. I guess it's premature to just vote on this part since it's not the entire meeting. So we'll have discussion and any changes to these minutes. If you could, if the people who are at the meeting have changes, please say them now and then we can have a vote on the entire meeting at the next point when those finance accounts are taken up.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Does that seem right? I know we always dance back and forth by what we should do, and I think it's better to hear what you're going to vote on and then kind of delay the ones you're not going to hear until you're about to vote on them. So, saying that, is there any discussion on the minutes? No? Okay. So let's move on. Would you like to put some motion on the floor, Representative Washington?
Oh, I have to go back again?
Yeah.
You put on the first account. Follow your agenda.
All right.
Follow your agenda, please.
All right, so the first
It's
account is
10:03.
voter registration, 1003 on page 62.
Can you,
So we approve $176,679.
Second.
I don't like doing this.
as I did last year, I'm going to be recording our motion, and to remind you, we have a motion, and we have two amendments to that motion, and when we vote, we start on the last amendment to the main motion and go backwards. And can you guys read my numbers? Okay. So we have a motion for account 1003. Is there any discussion or questions?
It was seconded by Bailey.
Yes, I heard that.
Right. Say it.
Okay,
For the record.
so the motion was made by Representative Washington and seconded by Representative Bailey. Sorry. Is there any discussion? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor of $176,679 for account 1003, voter registration, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. That was
This game, you just want to see it.
The next one is 1012.
Next one is 1012, Human Resources, page 85. The motion was made for $330,145.
Second.
Just wait a minute.
Slow down.
Oh, no. All right, we have a motion for account 1012, Human Resources, and it's been seconded by Representative Bailey, who's our second man, for $330,145. Is there any discussion on this? Any questions? Representative Newsom.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'd like Mr. Zagami to please go over a few of the highlights of this account, since it's a rather large one.
Mr. Zagami, would you like to give us some highlights of the account?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Hard to hear.
Okay, first of all, the staffing on the Human Resources is Assistant Town Manager / Human Resources Director. We also have an Administrative Supervisor, an Employee Benefits Coordinator, an HR Assistant. In looking at the accounts we have 5201, which there was a $3,000 ad, which that was brought up earlier to say that that was for sourcing minority publications with inclusion, so that's something we've been trying to work on, and we've actually been doing ads this year for that also. On tuition reimbursement, that was 5210. That was almost all the contracts contained $5,000 for tuition reimbursement for all of the bargaining units. However, only approved is $5,000 in total. So in other words, instead of like $25,000, the most we would approve is $5,000. The copier cost was a small one. That was $366, went to $935 for our copier. It's probably on its last leg, but since it was working fine, instead of going out and spend $1,800, I figured it was best to just stay with the the copier we have. And worst case scenario, if I have to, I'll lease another one if something happens, but it seems to be working as well as it can. We looked at, we've extended drug testing through the last 4 or 5 years, And by us doing a internal drug testing kit, which goes for $10.79, it's much cheaper than sending all of our employees or candidates down to Pequot for $50 apiece. That saves us about $4,000. Professional services, we added $10,000 this year. The reason we did that was we have a lot of questions and work done with the actuaries, which cost us money for them to come in, working on the retirement program. The other highlight would be 5290, which is the employee assistance program. That's something we have to have, and I'm sure everybody's familiar with that. It was costing us around $4,936. I was able to talk to Guardian, our life insurance people. They would provide it. So I just continued the contract with our current EAP. So that saves us about $4,936. I think that's pretty well my highlights on that.
Representative Bordelon?
Thanks, Madam Moderator. So you said something about the minority recruiting. So you guys are actively putting money forth towards that and not cutting that particular item in general. I mean, I saw the recruiting line was cut.
No, that's, when it came to recruiting and all of those line items there, to me, basically, the leadership and general support, there's no way to really break that out. So I just consolidated that into the top line. So there's no cut whatsoever in that. And I want to aggressively, not just in publications, but want to develop some relationships with the local, local agencies and everything that can help us widen the net and get more qualified employees in.
And based on your minority recruiting that was funded last year as well, how many minorities have you brought in? How successful has the recruiting been?
That has not been real successful to date. We didn't have a lot of positions open, really, for that. And now what's happening is, the way I look at this type of recruiting, I'm looking to see all levels brought in, not just looking down at the, I don't want to say it this way, but lower levels. To me, you want to have an aggressive affirmative action so that people coming in are able to move up. So that's really what the goal is here.
And are you networking with any other resources to make sure you're being as successful as possible to really tap into the job fairs to really structure your advertising for minority recruiting?
We're working on it, getting more and more this year than last year, probably. Yeah.
My last question is regarding the drug testing, just working in the medical field. How ethical is it that you guys are conducting them? My concern is that we could be staring down the barrel of a lawsuit in the sense where I don't think I'd feel comfortable using a $10 home kit. God forbid I got a false positive. How are you guys handling discrepancies and who's monitoring them? I mean, not having a medical facility where they're tested annually. My concern is that as a woman myself, I'd feel very, I wouldn't be happy with that standard of practice. I'm just a little concerned. So could you explain a little bit more about how you guys are saving money on drug testing? Because I have concerns about it being ethical.
Yeah, it's probably a 20-year-old practice, and I brought it over from the common carrier industry that's very strict in drug testing because of CDLs, et cetera. It's based on a saliva swab test. And basically, if there's any question, if it doesn't come out absolutely perfect, we take them down to Pequot and do a $50 test. So it's really
okay.
It's very successful, and it's worked out well. We've used it now over 4 years, and we haven't had a single.
And who's conducting this test?
It's actually our staff.
So the person who's hiring you is swabbing you too? I don't know.
Not necessarily.
That just seems a little, I don't know, I'm just asking because it just seems a little.
Well, we don't swab everybody we interview. We're talking about when you have to go post-interview.
Right.
Post-offer.
And does a person have the right to refuse your, inner staff swab and go to Pequot?
I haven't had that experience yet.
All right.
But if they, if there was question, I'd.
Yeah. All right. Just wondering. Thank you. It's a little interesting.
Representative Powers?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Director Zagami, when there is a problem with an employee, we have a program that we follow. It's not like you're just automatically with the union. You have certain steps that you have to take if someone does have a positive exam, a positive test. Is that correct?
Well, Connecticut is very strict about drug testing outside of pre-employment. So if there was any questions, we would send them to PQOT. We would not conduct any of those current employee tests. We wouldn't,
Right, so there is a safeguard here for liability.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So just remember, we're discussing the budget, and although this is exceedingly interesting, we want to only talk about it when it intersects with liability and other kinds of cost centers that we might have to discuss. So thank you. Any other questions? All right, are we ready to vote on the motion for account 1012, $330,145? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries. Thank you.
There's 31 here.
The next account is...
31 members, all in favor. Okay.
The next account is 1070, Insurance and Claims, on page 90. I move $638,303.
Second.
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion for account 1070, Insurance and Claims, for $638,303, and it's been made by Representative Washington and seconded by Representative Bailey. Are there any questions or discussion on that? I have one. How's that? Just to break things up a little. You said that, or I heard that there was a 5% nationwide increase in the insurance premium. Is that correct?
Yes.
Was that every place else but Groton, or what does that mean?
That's a nationwide, because of the coastal flooding that's been going on around the country, basically. Even though we're not experiencing it, it's still in the pot for, a large insurance premium increase. We all get hit, we all pay for it, like we're all in one pool. So basically, that's what they presented to us, and naturally I declined it, and I brought it down to 2%.
Representative Bordelon?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Question regarding the UPSs that we had that got struck by lightning. Would that fall under this account? I just want to make sure I'm on the right thing. I have it in my notes. My question is, what was the reimbursement on that? Did the insurance actually help with that event?
That's still in process right now, but yes, the insurance is helping out on that.
Oh, so it still hasn't been finalized?
Not finalized.
Okay,
no.
thank you.
We paid the bills. We're just waiting now for the insurance checks to come in.
Did they give an estimate of what we would be seeing in return?
We had about a $10,000 deductible on that.
Okay. And did they tell you what the return would be?
I think the whole thing was something.
Everything but the 10,000.
Yeah.
Like 69,000, I think it was.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Representative Newsom?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So this is this covers police liability as well? Or is that a separate account?
No, that also does go for police. If you've looked at, it actually states, I have some verbiage here, but it says police version of public officials coverage, wrongful arrest, wrongful entry, crime funds, et cetera. Also, which seems unrelated, but that's part of the same line item, is it includes the deductibles for the boiler and coverage and pump stations.
Right, so the use of the new body cameras that the police department's using, have you seen any benefit from that?
I would say so, but, we haven't had it that long to but I would say that'd be just my opinion.
Thank you.
All right. Any other, Representative Bordelon?
I just would like to ask a question about moving a number, making another number on the table, on the floor. Because if we've already paid the money for all the UPS systems, and we're looking at a positive return of $69,000 coming back, where would that money come when it comes back?
Well, if this is next year's budget, that's this year paying this year's bills.
We're still looking at where we can pull that money from, so it's still in discussion. I think we're trying to see if there was enough to scrounge up in the police department budget. So then it would be basically credit against there, which is really just a general fund. It would not affect this budget.
It wouldn't affect this
No.
budget. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, we have a number on the floor. That number is $638,303, and this is account 1070, insurance and claims. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? 31 in favor. That motion passes. Thank you.
The next account is 1071, self-funded plans, on page 94. And I will move $9,382,495. Next.
Who is that?
Powers.
All right, we have a motion by Representative Washington, and it's been seconded by Representative Powers for $9,382,495. All right, is there any discussion on this number? Any questions? Oh, sorry, Representative Richards. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I was just wondering if you could explain to us kind of the current state of self-funded plans and what we're doing to try to keep these costs down, because we know that they're just going to be going up.
Okay, sure. Let's start with the high deductible health plan, which is something we've moved over to the last couple of years. And I'll give you some of my points, that the reason why we are where we are with that. Right now, I think Beverly Washington already kind of gave you some of the numbers, but the average plan cost us around $20,963 on a PPO plan that we moved away from. And that was per employee versus the high deductible health plan, which is $18,183. The high deductible is about $2,780, I'm reading these obviously, less than the PPO. And even with the seating in there, the seating where we see $1,000 for individuals, $2,000 for family, that what that shows is that the average still comes out to $1,016, about $1,600. So all in all, what you really get out of this is the high deductible health plan that's come on board is really saving per employee $1,122 per employee per year. The other part about this that's important is we looked at other plans, state plans, et cetera, which we weren't able to jump on, but they showed a 8% increase last year, and they're projected for an 8% increase this year. So basically what we're talking about is our increases are probably averaging about 4.5%. So I'm still looking forward to whatever the next health, deal is down the road, but this is probably the best we can have at this point, but it's still self-funded, you know, so what we have to really do is we have to watch our claims. But what it is showing us is that employees are actually paying attention and trying to, you know, not just blow through that deductible, but trying to shop where these are consumer-driven products that, you know, so we are seeing something, and we plan to see more as we go along.
Representative Bordelon?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Quick question. So you're going to a high deductible plan. Is there a kickback or an incentive that the town gives back to employees towards their deductible?
No.
So that's what they're so the deductible, they pay outright at 100%? There's no...
Excuse, I'm sorry. Do you finish?
What I'm asking is like some employers will, if you have a $5,000 deductible, high deductible plan, the employer might give you $2,000 to offset that cost.
Oh, I get you. Okay. Where do I head?
So do we give any...
50% of it is seated, the 2,000 out of the 4,000.
So the town's kicking in $2,000 per employee?
Toward the deductible, yes.
And so how much does that total number look like per year? How many employees are you kicking
Well,
in?
I believe it was about $385,000 is what we had to give in for total seating.
Yeah. Because the question is if you're moving someone to a high deductible plan and the person is having to endure high costs, but you're giving them back the $2,000, is there really, have you looked at the real numbers on that?
Well, he said it was 1,200 roughly,
Right, because the real savings in the combination is, you know, if you're, I don't know, it's something, it could come out differently is all I'm saying. Because you're still kicking back $2,000 to your employees.
But in the bottom line, even if you add that in, we're still saving $1,122.
Okay, so that's included in that number. Okay.
That's what's,
All right, thank you.
absolutely, that's a good question. Yeah.
Thank you.
Representative Frickman?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Quick question. What portion of the HSA do we pay any? Or is it they pay all their HSA?
Well, the HSA is the funding, so we
Right.
give 50% of that is by the town.
So we do pay 50% of their HSA?
Yes.
Okay. So I was just wondering. Thank you.
So we have 298 retirees, is that correct? Something like
Yes.
that? And are they included in this health insurance plan as well?
Yes, Pottswood,
Okay,
yeah.
so they don't have a different health insurance plan, they just pick up the Medicare?
Well, boy, we need all night to talk about this.
Okay, sorry.
But anyways, what happens is we have, in most of the contracts we've had that we brought into the high deductible health plan, what's happened is the retirees that were on board at that time follow whatever contract is in there. So they would go into staying on that contract till they're 65. Once they're 65, they can go to, parts A and B, which is the hospital. And then we also offered, there was 140 people last year that are out there as retirees that we actually offered a different plan, which was fully insured, so that by being fully insured, we were no longer, for the 30 people that picked it up, we'll try every year, trying to expand that. We didn't end up with an unlimited amount of prescriptions, RX and dental to pay for.
Thank you.
It made a very big difference to the school, though.
Our issue is that we have so many plans from different contracts over the years. The school is pretty uniform, so when our third-party administrator came up with a plan, I think most of the school retirees took that plan, and so there's a big savings in the Board of Ed budget.
Thank you. Representative Oliver?
Yeah, you said you were looking into the state health plans, to say if the state opened up the health plans as like a public option, you looked into that and it was more expensive if that was the case?
Do you want to take it?
For the current employees, it was about a wash. For the retirees, it was a greatly increased cost. And then as Bob, they went up 8% this year also with the state plan. So we did come out better than where we'd be at in the state plan. But we're continuing to look at options. I've heard there's a new version, there's going to be other versions of the state plan coming out, so we'll keep watching that and see what could work for us. But we're constantly looking at it. Bob does a great job of monitoring all that.
Sorry, Representative Rogers?
Thank you. My question is regarding the OPEB funding. I'm just trying to understand how that was determined. I know last year 1.116 million was requested. We funded 500,000. Again this year 1.134 million, and we're funding a little less than 500,000. Are there any ramifications on our bond rating? And just if you could give a little background on how that was determined, that'd be helpful.
I'll stay away from the bond rating part, but anyways, what we found with OPEB is that it's something that's been new in the last 10 years, and we've been pretty well funding it more than anyone, really. We're in the top of the average. That's where we actually are, with about a 30% funding, and that's almost unheard of. And no one's really got on board with OPEB at this point, but so we're known as being somebody who's aggressive and out there, but bond rating out.
Yeah, we just went through a bond rating review for the school bonds last month. One of the three rating agencies, we did all three rating agencies, one of them brought up the OPEB and remarked about how far ahead we are from anyone else they've dealt with. So that was good to hear.
Sorry for being like this, but so other post-employment benefits, what types of benefits are collected in that? And I apologize if it was already stated. And are those are part of the bargaining contracts, is that correct?
No, that's not really part of the bargaining contract. That's something that the state accounting has pretty much put out there because it's part of the contracts that weren't really funded for retirees, and that's what that's for. But what that starts is when I'm a brand new employee, we're now technically starting to, I'm part of that actuarially determined figure, as a new employee as it goes along. So from now till then, that's what we're really, that's where it all starts out at. It's not something that just goes on after retirement.
What are those benefits, though?
Those are health and benefits.
Oh, they are, okay. Got it. Any other questions? No. All right, seeing none, we have a motion on the floor for $9,382,495 for account 1071 self-funded plans. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes, 31 in favor. Thank you.
The next account is 1013, Finance Administration. I'll move the number of $1,602,512.
Second.
That's
All
the
right.
number that passed in committee.
Yes, thank you. So we have a motion on the floor. It's been made by Representative Washington and seconded by Representative Bailey for $1,602,512 for account 1013. Representative Casper.
I'd like to move another number.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I would like to move another number.
Sure.
I would like to move the original number of $1,608,512.
Okay, sorry. So we have an amendment on the floor. It's been made by Representative Casper. I didn't quite hear
Mello
who's.
Miller.
Seconded by Representative Mello Miller. $1,608,512. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes. Subsequent to the finance meeting, information came from Mr. Burt, in which showed there was discrepancies in the salary of the finance director and other information. And I think if we had had that information at the meeting, the vote would have went this way.
Representative Katowski?
Thank you. When I first looked at the increases in this account, $80,000 for a new full-time position and $25,000 for a part-time position and a 10% increase in one of the salaries, I said, is this reasonable? According to the budget book, the adjusted 2019 salary for the finance director was 10% less than the 2020 number. Taking the 2019 number from the 2020 number and divide the difference by the 219 number is the percent of the increase. The question is this reasonable? This is a lot for one account in 1 year. So I moved a number eliminating the part-time position in the committee and giving the finance director a generous 5% increase instead of a 10% increase. That failed, as you heard. There are 8 positions in the 2020 budget with 10% increases and 1 position with a 7% increase. What the RTM needs to decide are 10% increases reasonable. If not, we need to be consistent in all accounts and reduce all to a reasonable amount. If we believe that 10% raises are justified, then I will have to agree to disagree, but majority rules. In all accounts, I will be supporting the generous 5% increases for the 8 positions with a 10% increase and 1 position with a 7% increase. If this is successful, the town will save $44,212 in salary costs. I would like to move the number $1,577,155.
Is there a second for that, Chase? We have a motion for $1,577,155 by Representative Katowski, and it's been seconded by Representative Chase.
This eliminates the part-time position and reduces the 10% increase to a 5% increase and keeps the new $80,000 position. Thank you.
Representative Bordelon?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I just wanted to thank the town manager for his email that he sent out, going over everything in great detail. Could you speak a little to, maybe a little bit, I know I read the email, but sometimes, like the Board of Ed budget, I mean, we can approve a number, but we have no control over where the money in that account is going to be moved. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So we can theoretically give you more or less. I mean, I'm just throwing, we have no control on how you guys choose to spend that money within that account. We are basically looking at it broken down, but the bottom number then is at your privy to move how you choose. Could you explain a little bit more,
Sure.
just for the record, out what you sent in the email and help us understand how the numbers came to be?
Sure. Generally speaking, the budget calls for non-union employees to get a 2% COLA and the possibility of a 1% merit, depending, that's evaluation dependent. You have to go through a performance review. And just for reference, union employees generally get around a 2% also COLA, but they have steps where you are automatically every year get up to that max within a few years, that max salary. The non-union employees lack that. In place of that, the manual allows for the town manager to give up to a 4% merit increase based on an evaluation. We had the council and I had the town attorney review that, say yes, that is the case. It's at the manager's discretion. If you do it mid-year, you would have to do it as a fourth quarter transfer later unless you could absorb it somehow in the budget, but that, as we know, a lot of budgets run very tight. So we had the town had a new wage, had a wage study for non-union done about 2 years ago. It was just wrapped up I think it was Mark's last meeting when, and in my first meeting, we overlapped for one meeting where it was adopted by the former town council for a new wage scale for non-union, as I mentioned in my email. And what we saw is a lot of the newer employees tended to be higher on that wage scale because you're at other places, you're going up. Some places are, are regularly moving people along, whereas our long-term employees, some of them were lagging behind. So part of it is trying to get them up to where they should be. I don't want to go too much into any particular employee, but that is the reason for the increases. And it's only a 6% increase. It's broken up. As I mentioned in my email, there's at least 3 wages that were wrong in there for 19. And I put an actual chart in my email showing what the current wage is to the new wage and what that percent would be. 6% is what it would be. Now there are some others. Each one's got some different circumstances. The police one, we actually eliminated Joe Sastre's position last year with we broke up that work we combined dispatch with police, and the emergency management. We broke that up among 3 employees under the understanding is, okay, you'll go up this amount, we'll break it into 2 years. I discussed with the council, said use your manager ability to give the 4% merit, do it 2 years in a row to get them where they should be. What I wanted to do though is I wanted to be upfront and have it in the budget rather than just do it and have to look for a fourth quarter transfer. So I'm just trying to be upfront and transparent. So,
Representative McDermott.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'm the one who proposed the 1602512, the first number there. Yeah, this is all news to me. I haven't read the email, but the point of contention in this whole situation was there's no problem with regard to Cindy's pay. It's not that at all. She could be making $150,000 a year, as far as I'm concerned, as long as it's justified. Now, when we had this discussion, I asked Bob Zagami if we had any information on that, and he said that we had a study maybe 3 years ago. I don't know who we're competing against here. This is just one of several 10% increases that are coming down the pike. I didn't have a chance to look at all of them. I just looked at 3. The other one that I'm involved in is the economic development. These numbers are not really that difficult to come by for some of these things. The police chief is easy. I did check into that, and that is not even in the ballpark, but that's not for our discussion this evening. I would like to know what we're talking about as far as where we've compared these numbers to. Can you tell us that, John?
I wasn't here when the study was done. My first meeting was when they adopted it. Our town attorney led the study with Bob Zagami, so he might have more information on which exact towns. But and the point is, we now have an adopted wage scale that they have to fall within. Now, if I bring somebody new in many of these positions, they'll come in. Even like in Cindy's case, having been here 37 years, if I hire someone new, there's a good chance I'm going to bring them in. I'm for sure going to bring them in at what they're higher than what she's making now.
So you haven't read it then? I'm just curious.
No, I read it when I came in, and I've got the scale, but it's been 2 years now since I looked at the background on it.
Well, we started off with your own comments that we want a zero-based budget in the town. As I say, I have no problem with whatever we pay our people as long as we have some sort of a rationale for it. But we're doing the same thing, the 10% across the board, whether it's 10% or 7.5%, depending on the new information that came out. And it's just going through several of these departments with no backup information. That was the problem.
Representative Washington.
I'm not for 10% raises, 7% raises, but I am against cutting a function thinking that the raise will be cut. We don't know if we go down to the $1,602,512, we don't know if that cut is going to come from the salary account. It may not even come from the salary account. It may come from purchasing or supplies or materials, because we cannot tell John, or the town manager, excuse me, where to make the cut. So it's up to him where to make the cut. So I'm not for that, and I do think that Roseanne's number, 1,577,000, cutting the position, I think we need those positions. So we need the deputy, the finance director, we need somebody to start training, to take over for Cindy. Cindy's been here for 35, 40 years. Eventually, she's gonna leave. She's not gonna be glued to the town of Groton. She wants to have a life and come to all these meetings all the time. So we have to get somebody in place to take over for Cindy. We want to start training somebody. So when they get in that position, they know what to do. So I'm not for cutting any positions, and I'm not for high raises, but we cannot tell the town manager where to make the cut. And I don't want him to cut some other line item because he truly believes what he believes should be the salary for the finance director. And I don't think we should determine salaries anyway. That's not up to us. I don't know. Maybe it is.
Representative Casper?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I had assumed everyone had read the email. Let me just bring it back up again, in which the 10% raises, there are no 10% raises, according to Mr. Burt. The most anyone getting is 6%. Economic Development Manager, Assistant Director of Planning, Finance Director, Police Chief, Deputy Police Chief, Operations, etc., to get them in line with the pay scale. And also there were 4 salaries that were listed incorrectly in the budget book, which is what you're, well, that is what the 10% was based on. So, in effect, it was, the most is 6%. People were talking about allowing 5% as a reasonable number, and I think the extra 1% is probably justified.
Representative Casper, I did look in my budget from last year, and the number that isn't adjusted was correct. So between, I think what Representative Kotowski is saying is between the number that our RTM voted on last year and the number that's in the budget this year, there was a 10% raise. I did look up my budget book today, so I don't know.
Yeah, that was because there was an increase mid-year.
Right, which I put in the email, right?
Right. And so that was, in fact, there should have been a different number for what she was making, or what other people, what everyone was making. That number should have been adjusted because there was a raise after that.
Representative Monahan? Oh, I saw you, sorry. Actually, I have Representative Mello Miller next, then. Sorry.
Thank you, Madam
I
Moderator.
have you too, but later on.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So just taking into effect the COLA increase, which would be 2%, would bring the director up to $122,028.76. So increasing it to 126, her salary to 126,966 is only a 4% raise on top of COLA for 37 years of service. That's what we're saying, 37 years of service, and here we are arguing about what, about downgrading her salary. Not downgrading, but not increasing COLA and then not allowing a merit increase, and we're thinking that if we're going to lower the number, that it's going to come from salary, and that's not true. And if this is how we are treating employees that are working here a long time, what motivation is this for people to continue to work for the town of Groton if we're going to argue about salaries when she has done nothing but serve the town of Groton for 37 years? I think that she deserves this merit increase on top of her COLA. And I think we are lucky to have her in this town. She comes to our meetings, she answers all of our questions, and this isn't about a salary. This is about treating the employees of Groton well so they stay here and they want to work for us, and she has done nothing but serve us. So thank you.
Thank you. Representative Powers, sorry about that.
Thank you, Madam Moderator.
that microphone lasted one day.
Those are brand new, you know, don't break those.
I kind of like the old ones.
They're gonna come out of their salary.
These questions are for John. They're quick questions. I appreciate the email, John. It was really nice that we were able to get it before the meeting. I know that we collapsed some jobs into some of the categories that are here. What were the savings of that? Could you explain that to us?
Sure. As I was mentioning on the 911 director / emergency manager, once you eliminated that position and then added salary to 3 people who were already working full-time jobs and over. I mean, they work incredible hours. They agreed to take on those extra duties, break it up, and then the savings, I think the salary savings was $82,000 and some change plus benefits, so you're talking about $100,000 savings.
That includes the pension and the
Right.
retirement benefit as well, correct? As far as, can you explain to us the operations supervisor position with the licensing that's involved in that and what that salary is?
Sure. We require a Class 4 chief operator, and what we've seen, in order to be legal for our wastewater treatment plant, what we've seen is there's a shortage in Connecticut, and people are poaching from one another over the last couple of years. They're offering exorbitant amounts to get you to come over to theirs. And so part of this is trying to, before any of that happens, to get that aligned with the pay where it should be. And I think I neglected, I did mention earlier that union employees get around a 2% COLA as well as steps. Well, those steps vary between, depending on union, between 2% and 6%. So employees that are union are getting between 4% and up to 8%, depending on which union you're in. So these really are out of line even with that.
So generally speaking, I mean, it's actually going to cost us less money in the long run than it is more money in the immediate need,
Right.
correct?
And I can guarantee you, if the chief operator position left, I would pay way more than I'm paying now.
Right, and just
Yeah.
fines and
Yeah.
discharges and things
Right.
like that, correct?
Right.
Thank you.
Representative Whitney?
I had a question about the part-time financial assistant 1 that's been added. I was wondering what the pressing need is for that at this point, and also if we didn't fund that position, what the ramifications would be.
Thank you. Currently in the purchasing division, I have 1 full-time financial assistant, 1 in the purchasing agent. And what I envision with the part-time position, 20 hours a week, would take over more of the clerical tasks, such as they do reconciliation of monthly invoices, like for the printer and the maintenance program. We have an American Express card. They handle vendor insurance certificates to ensure that the vendors that are coming on site have adequate insurance in case something were to happen here. Department also handles the AP audit, where they review all the checks that go out to make sure that there are no mistakes and account numbers and everything are accurate. I'm also looking for some cross-training, because now with just the 2 people in that division, the division, let me just give you an overview of that. The purchasing department does town-wide purchasing, and they do all of the bids, including preparing requests for proposals and requests for qualifications. They handle the disposal of surplus assets, all of the lease agreements, and they also have, the purchasing agency also has mailroom oversight. So when I have just the 2 people in there, and the workload has increased in that division. So when I have one of them out, it only leaves one person to do all of the work. And what I'm looking to do is have this part-timer take over, as I said, all of those more clerical jobs, so that the full-time can be cross-trained to help out the purchasing agent more on larger items, particularly like, oh my goodness, it just fell out of my head. Oh, the fixed assets, I'm sorry. Fixed assets, which we should be doing throughout the year. Historically, we've waited until the end of the year, and that's when we have to go out to the departments and have them go through their list. We have to add and deduct whatever has happened throughout the year. And that's always something that, for our audit, which is due in December each year, the auditors are always waiting for us to finalize that. It's always a rush at the end of the year. And we should really be doing that throughout the year, but I just don't have the staff to do it. I don't have any depth in that division. And if one of them are on vacation, the workload just tends to pile up, and we're putting out fires the whole time we're there. So I'm looking for the part-time to relieve the full-time FA1 some duties so that she can, the part-time can be cross-trained to take over in her absence, but the full-time position can help out, take some of the workload off of the purchasing agent.
Representative Massett?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Just a point of order. When we are discussing a particular account, could we stay with that account? I've heard a discussion about the sewer treatment facility, about collapsing police department jobs. So could we try to stay?
Sure, I think there was a discussion of a memo that was sent out since some people hadn't read it, but we can certainly try to limit discussions that are not pertinent to the account. Representative Chase.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I would like to agree with Representative Miller on salaries. I don't begrudge. Cindy is always there for us, always willing to answer questions. That I don't begrudge. I do support the first number because I think $6,000 can be absorbed. But I have a question for the town manager. You said you want to hire a deputy director of finance?
Correct.
For 2020?
Right.
So can you explain to me, in the 2019 budget, there is already one there. So how is that new for 2020?
What's that?
The council authorized the deputy finance director to be hired this year.
Oh, right. Oh, because it was already, yeah. Mid-year, the council had already authorized creating that position, so that's why it, a few months ago, a few months ago.
So has someone been hired already?
No.
No, we're actively recruiting
Yeah,
for that
it's
position.
in the mid-process, yeah.
So there's money
It's
in
hard
the
to find.
FY19 budget for that person? No.
We won't have it on board. That type of position takes several months. We won't have it on board in 19.
Well, if it would, it would
Doubtful
be,
anyways.
yeah, very late in the year. It takes a long time to recruit for that, but
I think she asked, was it in the 2019 budget, the salary for that position?
right. There is a small amount. We were hoping to get someone on board.
$13,193.
Yeah, at the end of this fiscal year.
Right.
So that they'll be ready for July 1. Because one of the other issues I know that you've probably heard about is the ERP. And this position coming in is going to be very helpful to me in implementing that ERP that we're currently working on, which is replacing all of the financials in the town of Groton. It's a huge project.
System.
Software system, yes.
Okay.
But
Thank
I
you.
do- oh,
Thank
sorry.
you.
Thank you. Representative Whitehouse?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I just have two clarification questions for the town manager. So as I understand your email, the way the system should work is that we're contractually obligated to give raises to union staff, and the town should voluntarily give raises to non-union staff because they're doing good work and we want to keep them here. And we have failed to do so in the past. Is that
correct?
Is that correct?
And there is a statement in that non-union policy that we won't treat them any worse than we treat the union employees.
Right. So the larger raises that we're seeing now is to
Catching
catch
them back
up.
We've had savings due to them being lower than they should be.
Okay, so this isn't like on top of the raises you've been getting, you're getting a 10% raise or 6% raise. This is to make up for the raises you have not been getting.
Right.
We're
Correct.
catching up. This is like having a series of 2% raises, but just all at once.
Correct.
And you also mentioned that this could have been done outside of the budget process through in progress, but you're intentionally being upfront, so they can be all in the budget. And
correct.
So it would be possible to avoid the pushback just by kind of sneaking this through the back, but instead you're bringing it out in front where we can all see it. Is that kind of what's
I like to
happening?
be as upfront as possible.
And I appreciate that, and I think that's a very good way to do things. So thank you.
Thank you. Representative Wells, and then we can circle back for second chances for people.
I'm somewhat skeptical about not giving cost of living increases. I was approached a couple of years ago in a restaurant. Someone I knew, a father and uncle, was a retired police officer, and he said that his whole group of retired officers had not received a cost of living increase in a number of years. So I'm kind of very skeptical when somebody says maybe they don't deserve it. Maybe nobody was at this budget hearing saying, ha, we stiffed them for a couple more years and have saved X bucks. So I'm in favor of let's do it right now.
Representative Kwiatkowski, would you like to speak for the last time on this motion?
Thank you. A couple of things. What we're voting on tonight is what is in this budget. And in this budget, it says that the amount that the RTM approved in 2019 was $115,000. The amount that's proposed tonight is $126,000. That's a 10% increase. Not 6, 10, okay? And I just have one other comment about regarding where the reductions can be made. If you were watching the town council budget deliberations, we heard many times that when the mayor said to the town manager, even though the town manager has a say as where to reduce, he will respect the town council recommendations. So hopefully the RTM will get the same respect. Thank you.
Representative McDermott?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. This was never about Cindy's increase. This is really about the process. And Representative Monahan just handed me a 3-page email, which I think proves the point. It never should have happened that way, in my opinion. I've been a corporate officer for some major and minor corporations, and this never would have happened. I've never seen that occur in my working life. So the thing that I do disagree with Representative Katowski about is I fully support Cindy's request for additional help. I think that it's probably, if not the most important department, one of the most important departments we have. And I think she's got a good handle on what she needs. And if she says she needs it, I would go along with that. Thank you.
Representative Bordelon?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I just wanted to say thanks for the explaining the account, and once again, it's about the whole number. We have no control. The 2 positions that they're looking to fill, I hope you're working with the resource director and looking at minority recruiting. In that office, there lacks, since I did diverse community, and our offices around here don't represent the town that we serve, and so I hope that if we're going to fill these 2 positions, we really consider bringing in some minorities.
Right. I see no more. Town clerk has a point.
I just remember using contingency to pay for non-union salary increases last year and possibly the year before. I knew we used part of it for a retiring employee, and then there was some contingency instead of in the budgets. Right.
Yeah, I forget the details.
Right, but there were increases through contingency. It wasn't, I don't think it was across the board, but it was ones that weren't included. There was a group, yeah.
I think Cindy knows the
Right. We did include, because that was the year we had so many contracts out, and we had the large amount of contingency.
Exactly.
And when the contracts were settled, yes, I did come and
Right.
have contingency transfers to cover those payroll increases.
And
yes.
non-union. We covered union and non-union with that.
Okay. I'd have to go back and look to be sure. I remember the unions, but.
Yeah, I remember the unions, I don't remember the non-unions.
No, not for you.
Oh,
We
you
gave
mean
money to the new town manager out of a different account. That was a different account.
You're talking in the past?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that is true. We went through where funds were put into contingency rather than putting them into the budgets. And then what John is trying to do, or the town manager is trying to do, is put us back into getting them in the budget so that we don't have to come back for contingency transfers at the end of the year or throughout the year.
So I'm just curious, where were those, the raises taken out of contingency for this last year, the bumps that you see on between adjusted and estimated?
They weren't taken out of contingency. Small enough that they could be absorbed, and late enough, mid-year that it wasn't, it doesn't account for a whole lot.
Okay. Thank you. So are we ready to vote on the last number on the board, which is $1,577,155, and that's account 2120. Is that correct?
No.
Oops, sorry.
No, 1013.
I'm on the totally wrong one. 1013. All in favor, please say aye.
Okay, that's 2. That's Whitney and Katowski.
All opposed, say nay. Nay. Any abstentions?
29 opposed, 2 in favor.
That motion fails, 2 in favor and 29 opposed. The next motion that we have is $1,608,512.
I'd like to move another number.
Okay.
$1,583,052.
$1,583,052. Is there a second for that?
Second. Kwiatkowski.
We have a motion on the floor for $1,583,052. It's been made by Representative Whitney and seconded by Representative Kwiatkowski. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, just briefly, the difference between that and the original requested amount is just the removal of the part-time financial assistant one.
Is there any other discussion on this motion? Representative Bordelon?
I think we just need to move to the original number. I mean, you can't move the account. We have no control that system can still come in. They might take away postage or something else. We have no control over where that money's going to go.
Postage.
I mean, it could. I'm just throwing out a random. I'm just something like I think I don't know. We can't tell them where to cut. So we think we can say that we're moving that number to cut the part-time position. But it doesn't mean that they're going to do that, and they don't have to. So if that's your reason for doing it, I worry that the outcome might not be that.
Would you like to speak for the last time on your motion, Representative Whitney?
Yes, I'll keep it short. We don't have any power within any account to tell them where they should cut. It's just a rationale for why we suggest cuts, or additions for that matter. And even with that new number, it's an 8% increase on this account, and that's rather large.
Any other, Representative Whitehouse?
So someone mentioned earlier the idea the finance department is one of the most important departments in the town. And I'm inclined to agree because a lot of the things that finance does have very large multiples of return. And I don't know exactly how the purchasing process works. I've not been involved in it. But if the finance director says that we need additional staffing to do the job, my thought is that if we don't have proper staffing, that's when mistakes get made, which means possibly not sufficiently researching a purchase and spending more than we need to, or a more serious error that incurs some kind of liability. So for the cost of, is it $20,000 we're looking at? For $25,000? No, a fairly negligible amount against the $126 million budget. It gives us more sufficient staff to be able to manage the $126 million budget more effectively, which seems like, it seems like one of those small things like making sure you get the oil change in your car before the smoke starts coming out of your engine. Doesn't cost that much until you don't spend the $50 in the oil change, and then it does cost a lot. The small amount we're talking about for the additional staff to do the job right seems like a good investment on making sure that we're not, losing $250,000 somewhere else because we didn't invest $25,000 to have the right staffing level.
Representative Stevenson?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. And just to echo what Representative Whitehouse said, we keep saying that we think the finance director does an incredible job, that she deserves these raises, and I completely agree with that. So then why do we doubt the numbers that she has provided for the positions she feels she needs to do her job? We see on a piece of paper these numbers, these hours, but we don't know what the day-to-day lives of these departments are doing. So if she believes that she needs that position, and I think she described very well the situation, I think if a for-profit company is understaffing if someone is sick and someone else has to cover the work, maybe the company loses some money, you know. But when you're talking about a public position like this, a town, you know, that affects all of us. So I do think we need to look at contingencies where someone might be sick and how do we cover that. So if she thinks she needs that position, I say that we support that. Thank you.
Representative Casper?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. There was a little bit of flawed logic. It's a relatively small department, so any addition is going to be a certain percentage. If it was a department of 1 and they said they needed to go to 2, you know, that's a 100% increase, and by that logic, it would never happen, and everybody would be a one-man department.
Thank you. Any more comments? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor for $1,583,052 for account 1013. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Nay. Any abstentions? That motion fails. 2 in favor, 29 opposed. We have another motion on the floor. Representative Newsom?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'll be supporting the main motion. It represents a 0.4% decrease from what's being asked for. I think that's absorbable.
Thank you. Any other comments on 1,608,512? This is the First Amendment. Representative Casper, you want to speak again on this one? Sorry.
Yes, I just want to remind everybody that if they had read the email, you would have seen that if we had my feeling is if we had the information before the Finance Committee meeting, this would have been a number that passed the Finance Committee.
All right, hypotheticals. All right, so we have a motion on the floor. All in favor, please raise your hand. Do you want to do the opposed?
No, I just get quickly, I
Do you
can't
wanna
see
do a
them
roll
all,
call?
so I'll do a roll call. It's better to do it. So say yes or no, or abstain, please. Vote 1, yes, abstain. Adams?
No.
Bailey?
Yes.
Bordelon?
Yes.
Casper?
Yes.
Chase?
No.
DeSilva Fleming?
Yes.
Frickman?
Yes.
Gustafson?
Yes.
Katowski?
No.
Put you in the wrong spot, sorry. Lambert?
Yes.
Massett?
Yes.
McDermott?
No.
Melendez?
He's not here.
Oops. Miller?
Yes.
Merritt?
Yes.
Monahan?
Yes.
Newsom?
No.
Oliver?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
Quinn?
No.
Richards?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Stanford?
Yes.
Starkey? Starkley?
Yes.
Stevenson?
Yes.
Strode?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Whitehouse?
Yes.
Whitney?
No.
Eben?
No.
All right, we got 23 in favor, 8 opposed, no abstentions. That equals the
23 in favor, 8 opposed, no abstentions. That motion passes. So I would like to call a 10-minute break because we have some delicious items from District 1 on the table over here. So please get them. Please be back by no later than 9 o'clock, and if possible, a few minutes earlier.
Find it in my notes. I moved the number $182,200.
Gustafson?
Powers.
Nope. Gustafson. Did it
All
first.
right, we have a motion on the floor for account 2120, the revaluation fund, made by Representative Washington for $182,200, seconded by Representative Gustafson. Is there any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all in favor of $182,200 for account 2120, the reevaluation fund, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes, 31 in favor. Thank you.
The next account is 2060. It's on page 191, Mumford Cove.
Oops.
And I'll move the number $21,102.
Second.
Bailey?
All right, we have a motion on the floor for account 2060 Mumford Cove for $21,102, made by Representative Washington and seconded by Representative Bailey.
And once again, this account is through the Mumford Cove Association. It contracts with the Knowing Fire Department for fire protection, and it taxes the residents the cost of the service of the fire protection. All right, and the town collects the taxes and pays the fire district. So that's what the $21,102 is for, fire protection for the Mumford Cove residents. And they get the fire protection from the Knowing Fire Department.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor of $21,102 for account 2060 Mumford Cove, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes, 31 in favor. None opposed?
And the last account is 4010, the Groton Sewer District. It's on page 194. And I'll move the number $794,486.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor from Representative Washington for Groton Sewer District in the amount of $794,486, as seconded by Representative Bailey.
And once again, the Groton Sewer District is primarily a debt service fund, which pays the principal and interest on sewer bonds and payments to the state of Connecticut for the Clean Water Fund loan. Currently, the interest on the loan is 2%, which is pretty low. And the only thing we owe is for the Clean Water Fund. The money is used for the maintenance of the sewer treatment plant. I don't know if Cindy wants to add anything to that. It's pretty simple.
Any questions, discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor for $794,486 for account 4010, Groton Sewer District. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes, 31 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions. That's it for our agenda for the evening. Thank you, Representative Washington. That was really
You're most welcome.
very resilient of you standing there. So
be
we
back
need a
on
motion
Monday.
to recess. And Washington seconded it. So we have a motion on the floor. Representative Adams? Second, thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Our next meeting will be on Thursday, May 2nd, when we'll take up public safety and some public works items. So I'll see you at 7 o'clock. Remember, these meetings start at 7, except for the ones that are on Mondays. Thank you. And the RTM meeting on the 13th.